Hello everyone, my name is Jocelle and I use she, her pronouns. I'm an alumnus of Apathy's Boring's Rise program, and today I will be talking to you about some of the challenges that youth in Vancouver have been facing and also what youth have been doing about it during this pandemic. But before I get started, I just want to congratulate you for surviving the year 2020, which will always be known as the year of a pandemic and a collective fight for social change as well. But before I go forward into my presentation, I would like to acknowledge that I'm calling in from the lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, which is also colonially known as Vancouver. And I think it's just really important to acknowledge this because Vancouver is unceded land, meaning that these lands were stolen and they were never surrendered by treaty. And this is really important to acknowledge because Indigenous populations, especially Indigenous youth, have been really disproportionately affected through this pandemic. But just to share a little bit more about myself, I am a Filipina second generation immigrant settler, and I have grown up in what is colonially known as Vancouver. I'm currently studying health sciences at Simon Fraser University, and I'm particularly quite passionate about the intersections of health, the environment, and identity. So I'm an alumnus of Apathy's Boring's Rise program, and through this program, I was able to co-found a community project called Shades of Sustainability, which focuses on centering the experiences of Black, Indigenous, and people of color within the climate movement. And now I'm also an event coordinator for Slice Mango Collective, which focuses on allowing Filipino Canadians to explore the intersections of their identity. So a little bit more about Apathy is Boring. Apathy is Boring was founded in 2004 when a choreographer, a filmmaker, and a fashion photographer came together at a party. And at this party, they had a lot of different discussions, and they realized that most of their friends weren't participating in Canada's democracy. So to address that, they started an online campaign to mobilize youth to vote during the 2004 federal election. And now, as we fast forward all the way to 2021, ASB now works year-round to support and educate youth to become active and contributing citizens to Canada's democracy, and they really hope that youth can become civically engaged. It's really important to note that with ASB, civic engagement isn't just about voting, it's about believing that youth have the skills and the abilities to make change in the communities, and ASB really just provides that framework for the youth to be able to develop their skills, such as through the RISE program. So Apathy is Boring usually works with youth who are aged 18 to 30, so why are we collaborating with YPI? Well, ASB really hopes to connect youth to the resources that they can have to create change in their communities because they really believe that youth are the ones who think outside the box and can drive innovation. They're the ones with strong problem-solving skills that can create creative solutions, and as youth who are aged 15 to 35 that make up the largest proportion of the Canadian population, so it's really important that they have a seat at the table and also make their own tables to create change. So with this pandemic, we know that there have been so many negative effects in our community. But because youth make up one of the largest populations in Canada, they have also been disproportionately affected as well. So there have been many impacts of COVID on our communities, but youth have been affected in three main areas: youth unemployment, youth mental health, and financial insecurity. So the first issue is youth unemployment. Tanisha, who is a chairperson of the BC Federation of Students, says that students are really facing the same problems that everybody else is facing right now. They are in a lot of the jobs that got laid off or had hours reduced. 115,000 jobs have been lost among youth since the pandemic hit, with an unemployment rate of 28.9%, which is quite large. This affects youth as they work to be able to access education, to pay any general expenses, or to support their families as well. And from a personal note, as a university student, I usually seek summer internships to be able to build my experience, but that wasn't available for me this past summer. And for my brother, who's in high school, he usually works summer jobs to get some experience and be able to save some money for the upcoming school year, and he wasn't able to do that as well. So youth unemployment has been a really big issue during this past year. So the second issue is youth mental health. And Sadia, who's a Jack.org youth mental health advocate, says that youth feel alone, and it's kind of hard to have that conversation or to even bring it up because it feels like they shouldn't be alone. They get to talk to their classmates 5 days a week on Zoom in the classroom. They get to call their friends, they get to be with their family, but it's just not the same. And Sadia is absolutely right. Youth are still feeling isolated and disconnected in such a virtual world, especially for youth in high school who are still navigating their personal growth and also the realities of the world at the same time. A lot of youth are sharing that they feel anxious of the world events that are happening and also the uncertainty of the future. A third issue that impacts youth, especially those who are members of marginalized groups, is financial insecurity. And a Black in BC mutual aid organizer says that an important truth has been highlighted through this COVID-19 pandemic, that our well-being is directly tied to those around us, especially our most vulnerable communities. And this pandemic continues to change the way we look at survival, and we know that there will be many that need access to help and can't wait for government forms of aid. So youth who fall in the intersections of being Black, Indigenous, or a person of color, and also who are low income or who have marginalized gender identities, are greatly impacted by financial insecurity, housing insecurity, and food insecurity. And this is why community organizing is extremely important to be able to support those in our communities. And I've seen people within my own circle supporting others by doing grocery food runs and also opening up opportunities for financial funding. So now as we look upon these images, you can see the issues that I've discussed reflected in them. You see the impacts of unemployment as businesses have to be closed due to COVID-19. You see people supporting their communities by providing them their basic needs. And you probably see this familiar image of being in school online at home on your laptop. And I think it's really important to note that these issues aren't mutually exclusive. There are so many people, especially youth, who are impacted by financial insecurity, their mental health, and who also are members of marginalized populations. And with isolation as a result of COVID, these effects are only exaggerated. So that is a lot to process, and that is totally okay. But what has come out of these issues is that youth have been doing incredible work to help out their communities. We have the British Columbia Federation of Students, who have called for improved funding for public post-secondary education to make sure that it's accessible and affordable. We have the Vancouver Just Recovery Coalition and Sustainability that have advocated for a just and equitable recovery for Vancouver from COVID-19, especially in regard to existing inequalities, respecting Indigenous rights, and tackling the climate emergency. And over the past year, the Sustainabilities have been able to successfully advocate for Vancouver City Council to pass the Climate Emergency Action Plan and fund it as well. And I just want to highlight that the Sustainabilities are actually mostly a group of high school youth, and so you have people who are your age who are advocating for change at the political level. We then have the community organizers of Black in BC, who organize a support fund for Black folks during COVID-19, and they have to date raised over $196,000 and dispersed funds to over 550 individuals and families in BC. So, how has Apathy's Boring been supporting youth and local organizations during this time? Well, their main objective is to make sure that youth are connected in ways that are meaningful, useful, and positive, and also helping youth stay informed during COVID. And so some ways that they've done that is through creating online resources and sharing them amongst the youth, such as information campaigns ranging on the federal provincial services available to youth, COVID-19 Mythbusters, and also a website page about anti-racism resources for Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and white allies during Black Lives Matter protests. ASB has also adapted some of their programming and events, and a couple examples are offering 2 webinar series on how to create digital communities in a time where youth can feel very isolated, and in doing so, they offer to pay for youth's meals. And they've also adapted their RISE program to be able to allow youth to create online projects like podcasts, video series, and web resource initiatives to make sure that youth still feel engaged and that they can still make impact in their communities. So we've explored the issues of youth unemployment, youth mental health, and financial insecurity. And I think it's very obvious that community organizations are really at the heart of repairing the impacts of COVID-19. And so here I've gathered a few resources for you ranging from mental health support to anti-racism resources for you to explore. And these aren't all of them, these are only a few, and you'll have access to a more elaborate list later on, but I'll just highlight the ones on my screen. So we have the Black Youth Initiative that provides low barrier funding for community-based projects for Black and Indigenous youth in Canada. We have Jack.org that trains and empowers youth leaders to advocate for mental health in Canada. We have Child Art, that is a research project that focuses on the experiences of youth during this pandemic using art. We have Community, which is a non-profit organization that's actually based in Vancouver, BC, that works to improve queer, trans, and two-spirit lives. We have youthspace.ca, which is a Canada-wide online crisis and emotional support chat. And the Hua Foundation is a youth empowerment nonprofit that focuses on racial equity and civic engagement, which is based in Chinatown in Vancouver. And then in terms of mental health support also, we have Foundry, which offers young people ages 12 to 24 health and wellness resources across BC, including support for COVID-19. So we've arrived to the end of my presentation. I want to just take a few moments to thank you for being here and listening to this presentation today. I hope this brings some light and some hope during such a difficult time, and then I hope you can find ways to keep meaningfully engaged, make impact in your communities, and also take care of yourself, because ultimately, taking care of yourself is the best way that you can make change.